Welcome back to Numbers Scream with yours truly, Tom Ellsworth, the Biz Doc. This week, 5 big numbers to unpack for you. First of all, Nvidia, size versus countries. Get ready to be surprised. Second, ICE is up in 25, but how up is up? Then the S&P 500. We're hearing that the economy is burping and moving. Let's look at the truth. Let's look at the number. And then Fed cuts, Fed chair. What's happening here in January? And lastly, who's really selling oil to the EU as the whole world worries about Venezuela, Russia, oil, the US, the Gulf of America? I have it all this week. First up, Nvidia. How big is big? Nvidia is big. They're the first $5 trillion company, sitting there at 4.9. Now that's their market cap. The total value of all the equity that's out there traded in the stock market makes the market cap. What are they worth? If somebody walked in with a check, probably they need a whole bunch of friends, to actually buy Nvidia. But let's look at that number in the scope of the world economy. Sometimes you hear nouns. Nvidia, Germany, Canada, they're all nouns. And the spin on TV is all nouns sound the same size sometimes, but they're not. Let's take a look. Nvidia is sitting here at $4.6 trillion market cap, closing in on 5. But take a look. Germany's entire economy is 5 trillion. Yes, that's correct. Japan, 4.3. India, 4.1. UK, 4. France, 3.4. Italy, 2.5. Russia, 2.5. Canada, 2.3. Yes, Canada, with all the bark and all the talk about getting upset with Trump, and we're very upset with you. 2 men on TV barking at each other looks like an even argument until you look at it and see that Canada's $2.3 trillion GDP, the United States, 31. 10% of the United States would be 3.1. That's still bigger than Canada. California is 4. Still bigger than Canada. So when you see 2 people on TV arguing and Canada says this and we say that, listen, you little brat, get in line and fly straight. Now, see how big Nvidia is? Absolutely amazing. So when you think about the market cap, you think about how big is AI and how big is the engine maker? That's Nvidia that makes all the chips for AI. Tell your friends this. Well, you know, Nvidia is bigger than most countries in terms of annual GDP. There you have it. Nvidia, a behemoth in AI. Second up, ICE was up in 2025. I wanted to look at the numbers and say, how much is up? ICE is doing this, doing that, and the mainstream media is showing us pictures designed to get us upset, and they have been doing that. But what's really happening? The number of detainees, 40,000 of them under Biden in 2024, and under Biden the prior year was 37,000. This year, 70,000, way up under Trump, but you would have thought that we had deported half of the world the way the screams are coming from the mainstream media. It's because this, let me unpack it for you. The ICE detentions that are happening, this is what the real numbers are. But here's the real truth. Every time ICE goes out and arrests or detains someone, that's a voter for the other side, an illegal voter, and someone that's been taking welfare that could go to people in America that truly need it, that are truly between jobs or destitute or something, but it's being taken by foreign nationals. But there's something else. When those voters are impacted, Democrats scream. You know the BizDoc likes to say words talk, numbers scream. Well, guess what? ICE arrests, Democrats scream. And I'll tell you why. Because it opens up Pandora's box that we're seeing in Minneapolis of what has been happening to relief money from all these programs. So ICE detains illegal aliens, voters for the Dems. They get upset. It exposes fraud. And then after fraud, it exposes frauds making a round trip in terms of campaign finance donations to Ilhan Omar and others. That's why everyone's upset, because the number of detainees is not really in the millions or even in the hundreds of thousands. Take a look at the numbers. But why is the voice so loud from the mainstream media? Because it's voters exposing fraud, exposing election donations, exposing Ilhan Omar, exposing Tim Walz, and guess what? The light is shining and the roaches are running, and that's what's happening. Third up, S&P 500. We're hearing all this noise about the economy, but what's really happened? Well, let the commentators, the words talk, but let the numbers scream. Take a look at this. The S&P 500 finished on January 2nd, right around 69.30, give or take. And look where it is now, 69.40. This may look like a bouncing ball, but that's 68.50, that's 69.50. This is just 100 points. So you can actually see it's mostly flat. So the S&P is not moving that much, even though people are saying, people are mad at us, people are upset, Trump's going to Davos, they're going to break their trade agreements. Well, I think they want oil, and I'm going to get to that next. But right now, things are relatively okay with the stock market. That doesn't mean there's no risk. That doesn't mean that there's not affordability issues. And oil and gas coming way down, as the president said at Davos, is a benefit for you and me. And it doesn't mean there's not work to do. But what it means is the headline saying that all is terrible is happening, not in the nation's 401ks and retirement accounts. They look relatively flat for now. Next up, item number 4. The Fed cut and the Fed chairs. Well, right now, according to Kalshi, and here's a Kalshi chart for you, most people are believing that with a $23 million has been placed there, put there by the people that are using Kalshi to state their opinion and what they think is going to happen. And we're sitting on a 98% chance that the Fed maintains the rate at the next meeting. Well, guess what? Okay, so the Fed government is going to do nothing. Nothing unusual about that. But who is going to be doing nothing? Well, let's go take a look, because the Fed chair, $50 million are wagered on who's going to be the next Fed chair, put up by the Kalshi audience. Take a look at this. Kevin Warsh is up there, number 1 at 45. However, he's currently being changed, and there's a pinch forming with Rick Ryder. So Rick Ryder is coming on. But wait a minute. What happened to Kevin Hassett? Take a look. Kevin Hassett, they said, maybe he should stay in a job at the White House, and suddenly he is falling off a bridge like Mary Jo Kopechne in the back of Ted Kennedy's car. And so there's where he is, back at the White House, but not joining the Fed. So you can see what happened. That guy goes out. These two are right here. Kalshi has got it up to the minute because people like you and me, you're getting a Kalshi account and putting our opinion out there. Give it a try. So that is what's going on. So it appears that the man that will do nothing right now is probably going to be Kevin Warsh. As Kevin Hassett is told, we'd like you to stay in the White House. At least that's the soap opera this week. Number 5. Where does Europe get energy? You know, liquefied natural gas, like what you see in gas containers for camping or in large tanks that are behind homes that are in more rural areas. And where do they get their oil? And oil makes aviation fuel, unleaded gas, diesel fuel, heating fuel, many different things. And that's what you do with oil. Where does Europe get the oil? Because remember, this week at Davos, they were saying bad things about Trump and being very upset. Maybe they should look and check their mirrors. Here's oil. Norway and United States provide almost 30% of the oil to the continent of EU. And by the way, who's not on here? Russia is down to 1%, which is mostly contraband oil, because all the sanctions with the Ukraine war have squeezed Russia in this regard. Others, and there's a whole big list of them, because there's oil production on the continent and in the North Sea produced by the UK. So there's a lot of places there. But the importers are Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, US, and Norway. Interesting, isn't it? So interesting where Europe gets its oil. Even more interesting is where does it get its natural gas? You know, the little blue flame on your stove. Guess what? 60% of the natural gas imported into the EU comes from us, the United States. Look at this. And this number for Russia is going down. This is third quarter, fourth quarter of last year. This, thanks to sanctions, is even lower. So look at this. Do you want to step on the U.S.? I don't think so. And so what's interesting to see is at Davos, how the Europeans were reacting to Trump and reacting to tariffs and reacting to things. How do you think they're going to react when their stove doesn't work and they don't have natural gas for their dryer and their heater? And, you know, it gets cold in parts of Europe, just a little bit over the winter. But that's interesting. And I like to look at things like this and then ask myself a question. When Trump is trying to make a point, or any U.S. politician is trying to make a point, sometimes these are just points being made in the media, because the truth is they don't really want to screw with one of the largest providers of energy to the European continent. And that is the energy story from us, the United States, to you, specifically EU. And that's the numbers of this week. I'm Tom Ellsworth, the BizDoc. If you'd like us to dive into your numbers, we can do that. Bet David Consulting offers conferences, masterminds, and one-on-one consulting for your business. If you want us to take a look, whether you're looking for growth, looking for EBITDA, or looking to understand the next step in structure and strategy that you would take from people who have actually been there and actually done it, contact Bet David Consulting. Look at the link below and go fill out the 5x5 matrix. Take a look at that and see how that might pertain to you and how we could help you, because that is what we do. We work with entrepreneurs like you to build your tomorrow bigger than today. I'm Tom Ellsworth, the BizDoc, and I hope I left you better than I found you.